The Grand Hall of the Galactic Alliance's Interstellar Academy was a marvel of engineering, a circular chamber with walls that shimmered like liquid glass. It was here, amid floating holograms of star maps and ancient artifacts from countless worlds, that the most esteemed historians of the universe gathered. Today's topic: humanity and its myths. Dr. Silthra, a historian from the planet Threx, adjusted her eye stalks, peering intently at the projection of a human figure standing atop a mountain, arms raised in triumph. "This is a representation of the myth of Prometheus," she announced, her voice echoing through the hall. "A tale of defiance, of a being who stole fire from the gods to give to humanity. It is a fascinating story, but it is merely that, a story." Her fellow historians murmured in agreement. Zorvax, a hulking entity from the icy world of Glacius, snorted, "Humans and their fables. They create gods to explain their existence, yet they fail to grasp the basic principles of their own reality." Dr. Silthra continued, "Yet there is a pattern in their myths. They often reflect their struggles, their ingenuity. Perhaps we should explore these tales in the context of their historical development." A voice piped up from the back. It belonged to Lyra, a small, feathered historian from the lush planet of Veltor. "But are any of these myths grounded in truth? Can we really consider them historical accounts?" The debate raged on, with voices rising and falling like the tides of a distant ocean. They discussed the tales of heroes and monsters, of great floods and celestial battles. Each historian presented arguments to dismiss humanity's myths, weaving elaborate theories about how such tales were mere fabrications, cultural artifacts of a species trying to make sense of a chaotic universe. Meanwhile, on a distant planet known as Terra, a human named Jack Thompson was blissfully unaware of the cosmic discussions about him. Jack was an amateur inventor, known for his odd contraptions and peculiar ideas. He had recently taken it upon himself to recreate the myth of Prometheus, not by stealing fire, but by harnessing it in a way that would astound even the most skeptical historian. In his cluttered workshop, surrounded by tools and half-finished projects, Jack was deep in thought. He had been experimenting with a new alloy that could withstand extreme temperatures. "What if I could create a device that could generate and control fire?" He mused aloud, scribbling notes furiously. "I could show them. I could prove that we humans are more than just myths." Back in the Grand Hall, the historians were still debating. Zorvax slammed a massive hand on the table, causing a ripple of light to dance across the holograms. "We must not forget the tale of the Minotaur. A creature born of hubris and madness. It is absurd to think humans could ever face such beasts." Dr. Silthra raised an eye stalk, intrigued. "But what if they did? What if their myths were not just stories but reflections of real encounters? They faced wild beasts, natural disasters, and yet they persevered." The historians were quiet for a moment, pondering the implications. Could it be that beneath the layers of myth lay truths about humanity's resilience? As the debate continued, Jack was busy in his workshop, oblivious to the fact that he was about to become the unwitting embodiment of the very myths they were dissecting. Days passed, and Jack's invention neared completion. He had devised a small, portable device that could create controlled fire using high-intensity plasma. It was a marvel of human ingenuity, a fusion of science and myth. He chuckled to himself. Prometheus would be proud. As Jack prepared to unveil his creation at the local science fair, the historians in the Grand Hall were growing increasingly agitated. They had agreed to send a delegation to Earth to observe the humans directly, to see if there was any truth behind the tales they had so casually dismissed. "Let us go to Terra," Dr. Silthra declared. "We shall witness firsthand the reality behind these myths. If they are indeed true, we must revise our understanding of humanity." With a collective nod, the historians activated their starship, setting a course for Earth. Unbeknownst to them, Jack was about to turn their skepticism on its head in a way they could never have anticipated. The starship glided through the cosmos, its sleek form slicing through the fabric of space. Inside, the historians were a mix of excitement and skepticism. Zorvax leaned back in his seat, his massive bulk consuming the space. "We will see if they can truly match their fables with reality," he muttered, arms crossed. Dr. Silthra was busy reviewing her notes, a holographic display hovering in front of her. Remember, our goal is not just to observe but to understand. Humanity's myths may reveal more about their culture than we realize. As the ship entered Earth's atmosphere, the historians marveled at the blue and green orb below. It looks so. Ordinary Lyra chirped, her feathers ruffling in anticipation. How can such a mundane world harbor such extraordinary tales? The ship landed discreetly in a park near the science fair, a bustling event filled with humans displaying their inventions. The historians, cloaked in their advanced technology to blend in, stepped out and were immediately struck by the sights and sounds around them. Children ran with balloons, laughter echoed, and the aroma of cotton candy wafted through the air. Jack stood at his booth, adjusting his plasma generator, oblivious to the alien eyes observing him from a distance. He was in his element, animatedly explaining his invention to a small crowd. This little device can generate fire without the need for fuel. It's clean, efficient, and... His words were cut short as he realized his audience was captivated by the glowing orb of plasma hovering above the device. One of the historians, Dr. Silthra, nudged Zorvax. "Look. The humans are fascinated by his creation. It's a demonstration of their ingenuity." What? Zorvax squinted, his skepticism wavering. But can it truly be controlled? Where is the chaos that accompanies fire? As Jack activated the device, a brilliant flame erupted in a controlled burst, illuminating the faces of the onlookers. Gasps filled the air. "See? Fire. And it's safe," Jack beamed, relishing the attention. "I call it the Prometheus project." The historians exchanged glances, their skepticism crumbling. "He's named it after the myth," Lyra exclaimed, her eyes wide with wonder. Could it be that he intentionally seeks to embody the very essence of his culture's stories? The demonstration continued, and Jack's passion was infectious. He explained how the device worked, drawing parallels to ancient myths of fire, creativity, and innovation. "We humans have always found ways to adapt and overcome challenges," he declared, "whether it's building shelters, creating tools, or even inventing ways to harness energy." Dr. Silthra took notes feverishly, her mind racing. "This is remarkable. He is not only showcasing a scientific achievement but also embodying the spirit of his myths. It's as if he's proving their relevance." Zorvax, still skeptical, leaned closer. "But what about the monsters? The Minotaur? The Kraken? Can they truly face such creatures?" Just then, a child stepped forward, clutching a plush dragon. "Can you make fire like a dragon?" he asked innocently, eyes sparkling with curiosity. Jack chuckled, kneeling to meet the child's gaze. "Well, I can't breathe fire like a dragon, but I can show you something pretty close." He activated the device again, creating a dazzling display of flames that danced in the air, forming shapes that mimicked a dragon's breath. The crowd erupted into applause, and the child squealed with delight. The historians watched, their initial skepticism fading into a mix of awe and admiration. Perhaps, Dr. Silthra mused, the monsters of their myths are not literal but represent the challenges they face. Or the chaos of their existence, Zorvax admitted, scratching his chin. They may not have faced literal beasts, but they certainly confront their own demons. As the demonstration concluded, Jack was met with a wave of enthusiasm. People approached him with questions, eager to learn more about his invention. Unbeknownst to him, he had captivated not just the crowd but also the alien historians, who were beginning to see humanity in a new light. Dr. Silthra gathered her colleagues. "We must engage with him. He is the embodiment of the very myths we debated. We cannot leave without learning more about his perspective." With renewed purpose, the historians approached Jack, who was still basking in the afterglow of his success. "Excuse me," Dr. Silthra called out, her tone both curious and authoritative. "We are scholars from a distant world and we have been studying human myths. Your demonstration was extraordinary." Jack turned, his expression shifting from surprise to excitement. "Wait, you're not here to critique me, are you? I'm just a hobbyist." On the contrary, Lyra chimed in, her feathers glinting in the sunlight. We seek to understand how you connect your myths with your reality. You are doing what your ancestors did, creating fire to illuminate the darkness. Jack blinked, processing their words. You mean you believe my invention is linked to the stories of old? That's kind of cool. Indeed, Dr. Silthra replied, and we would like to learn more about your culture's stories. Perhaps you can help us unravel the truth behind them. As they began to converse, the barriers of skepticism melted away. In that moment, the historians realized that humanity's myths were not just fanciful tales but reflections of their tenacity, creativity, and resilience. And Jack, the humble inventor, was about to prove that those ancient stories were far more than mere fabrications. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the park, as Jack and the historians gathered at a nearby picnic table. The atmosphere buzzed with energy, and the sounds of laughter and celebration filled the air. Jack, still riding the high of his successful demonstration, leaned forward, intrigued by his unusual audience. So, you guys really think my invention ties back to those old myths? He asked, a hint of disbelief in his tone. I mean, I just wanted to create something cool that could help people. Dr. Silthra smiled, her eye stalks focused intently on him. What you've done is more than just creating a device. You've tapped into the essence of human experience. Your myths reflect your journey as a species, your struggles and triumphs. Prometheus symbolizes the gift of knowledge and the consequences of defiance, much like your invention. Jack scratched his head, considering her words. I never thought of it that way. I just wanted to show that we can control fire, not be controlled by it. But I guess that's the whole point, right? We've always had to find ways to adapt. Zorvax, still towering over the table, leaned in. Tell us more about these adaptations. What other challenges have you faced? Jack chuckled, his enthusiasm palpable. Oh, where do I start? There was that time we had to figure out how to survive in extreme weather, or when we invented agriculture to avoid hunting and gathering all the time. And let's not forget about space travel. We literally built ships to leave our planet. Lyra's feathers ruffled with excitement. Space travel? You mean you ventured beyond your world? That's incredible. Tell us about it. As Jack recounted tales of humanity's journey into the cosmos, the historians listened, captivated. He spoke of the first moon landing, the thrill of exploration, and the challenges of living in microgravity. We're curious creatures, he explained, always wanting to know what's out there. It's like our myths of heroes embarking on quests, except now we're doing it for real. Dr. Silthra nodded, her mind racing with connections. So your myths serve as a blueprint for your aspirations. They inspire you to reach for the stars, even when faced with overwhelming odds. Exactly, Jack replied, his eyes sparkling. And they remind us that we're capable of so much more than we think. Like the stories of resilience during disasters, those remind us to keep pushing forward, no matter how tough things get. Zorvax leaned back, contemplating. You face natural disasters, like floods or storms. How do you overcome such chaos? Jack's expression grew serious. We've had our share of disasters. Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires, they can be devastating. But we learn from them. We build better infrastructure, develop early warning systems, and come together as communities to support each other. It's like the mythical phoenix rising from the ashes. The historians exchanged glances, their skepticism replaced by admiration. So even in the face of destruction, you find a way to adapt and thrive, Lyra said softly, her tone reflecting a newfound respect. It's almost as if you're living embodiments of your own legends. Pretty much, Jack shrugged, a hint of pride in his voice. We're messy, we make mistakes, but we keep moving forward. That's what makes us human. A sudden commotion drew their attention. A group of children had gathered around a nearby booth where a magician was performing tricks. The air was filled with gasps and laughter as the magician pulled a rabbit from a hat, and Jack couldn't help but smile. See, even magic is part of our stories. We love to believe in the impossible. Dr. Silthra observed the scene, her thoughts racing. Perhaps this is the heart of humanity's myths. They reflect your desire for wonder, for the extraordinary and the mundane. You create stories to inspire, to explain, and to connect. Jack nodded, his gaze drifting back to the children. Exactly. And sometimes those stories help us cope with reality. Like when we tell tales of heroes who face down dragons, it reminds us that we can face our fears too. It's all about resilience. Zorvax, moved by the conversation, spoke up. Your ability to adapt and find meaning in chaos is impressive. The myths we dismissed may hold deeper truths than we realized. And the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the park. Jack felt a sense of camaraderie with his unusual companions. So what's the plan? Are you guys going to write a new history of humanity based on what you've learned? Dr. Silthra smiled warmly. Yes, but not just a history. We want to share your stories with the galaxy. To show that humanity is not merely a collection of myths, but a vibrant, resilient culture that embodies the spirit of its legends. Jack's heart swelled with pride. Wow, that's amazing. I'd love to be a part of that. Maybe we can collaborate on something together. I can help you with more inventions, and you can help me understand my own history better. As the stars began to twinkle overhead, the group shared ideas, laughter, and stories late into the evening. The barriers of skepticism had crumbled, replaced by a shared understanding that humanity's myths held profound significance. In that moment, Jack realized that he was not just an inventor, he was a storyteller, a bridge between worlds. And as the historians prepared to document their findings, they knew they had unearthed something extraordinary, a glimpse into the heart of humanity, where resilience, creativity, and the spirit of myth intertwined in ways they had never expected. As the night deepened, the park transformed into a tapestry of glowing lights and vibrant laughter. Jack and the historians gathered around a portable table, where the remnants of snacks lay scattered, a testament to their animated discussions. The air was filled with the sweet scent of popcorn and the distant sounds of carnival rides, creating an atmosphere that felt both festive and intimate. Let's talk about some of your other myths, Dr. Silthra suggested, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. What about the tale of the Kraken? A beast that strikes fear into sailors. Surely that must be rooted in some truth. Jack chuckled, leaning back in his chair. The Kraken is a classic. It's usually depicted as this giant sea monster that drags ships and sailors under the waves. But if you think about it, it likely originated from sailors' fears of the unknown depths of the ocean. Back in the day, they had no idea what lurked beneath the surface. Zorvax nodded, intrigued. So it represents the chaos of nature, the dangers of the sea. Exactly, Jack exclaimed. And it's not just the Kraken. Many of our myths about monsters often symbolize our fears or challenges, like dragons, for example. They're often depicted as treasure hoarders, but they can also represent greed or ambition. Lyra flapped her wings excitedly. Fascinating. So these creatures serve as metaphors for your struggles. Right, Jack replied, warming to the topic. And when we tell these stories, we're not just entertaining ourselves, we're exploring our own human nature, our desires, and our fears. It's a way to make sense of the world. Dr. Silthra leaned in, her interest piqued. This is a vital insight. Your culture uses stories to navigate complexity. It's almost as if your myths are a form of psychological exploration. Jack nodded, feeling a sense of pride in sharing his culture's storytelling tradition. It's like therapy, but with dragons and heroes. We learn from our stories. They teach us about bravery, sacrifice, and the importance of community. Zorvax crossed his arms, contemplating. And what about the tales of hubris? The stories of individuals who overreach and face dire consequences. Ah, that's a big one, Jack said, leaning forward. Take Icarus, for example. He flew too close to the sun, ignoring his father's warnings. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of ambition and the importance of humility. Lyra tilted her head, considering. So, your myths are not just about glory and triumph, but also about the lessons learned from failure. Exactly. We celebrate our victories, but we also reflect on our mistakes. It's all part of being human, Jack replied. his voice filled with passion. "It's how we grow." The historians exchanged glances, their respect for humanity deepening. They had entered this world expecting to find mere fables, but they were uncovering a rich tapestry of wisdom woven into human culture. As the conversation flowed, Jack's enthusiasm was infectious. He shared stories of legendary figures, of inventors who changed the world and ordinary people who became heroes in their communities. He spoke of the resilience shown during natural disasters, where neighbors banded together to help one another rebuild. "Your ability to adapt is truly remarkable," Dr. Silthra noted. "You face challenges with creativity and collaboration. It's a testament to your spirit." Just then, a loud cheer erupted from a nearby booth, where a group of children had gathered. A young girl was attempting to balance a stack of cups, her determination evident as she concentrated fiercely. The sight made Jack smile. "See, even kids are embodying the spirit of our myths," he said. "They're learning to take risks, to face failure, and to keep trying. It's all part of growing up." Lyra clapped her wings in excitement. "You humans are wonderfully resilient. It seems that your myths aren't just stories, they're a framework for your lives." Jack grinned, feeling a sense of kinship with his alien friends. "Exactly. And we're always looking for new stories to tell. It's how we connect with each other, how we make sense of our experiences." As the night wore on, the group continued to share tales and insights, their laughter mingling with the sounds of the fair. The barriers between them had dissolved, replaced by a sense of camaraderie that transcended their differences. Eventually, as the stars twinkled above, Dr. Silthra turned serious. "We must document what we've learned. Your stories deserve to be shared beyond this world. They can inspire others, perhaps even change perceptions about humanity across the galaxy." Jack's heart raced at the thought. "You really think so? That my stories could mean something to others?" "Absolutely," Zorvax affirmed. "Your experiences, your myths, they hold wisdom that can resonate far beyond your planet." Feeling a rush of excitement, Jack leaned in. "Then let's do it. Let's create something together, a way to showcase humanity's resilience, creativity, and spirit through our myths." The historians nodded eagerly, their minds already buzzing with ideas. They envisioned a project that would blend human stories with their own insights, a collaborative effort that would bridge the gap between cultures and showcase the beauty of shared experiences. As they began brainstorming, Jack felt a profound sense of purpose. He realized that in sharing his culture's myths, he was not just telling stories, he was forging connections that could change the way the universe viewed humanity. And in that moment, under the vast expanse of the night sky, they all understood that they were part of a larger narrative, one that intertwined the threads of myth, reality, and the endless possibilities of the future. As the stars twinkled above, the group settled into a productive rhythm, their ideas flowing like the gentle breeze that rustled the leaves of nearby trees. Jack's excitement was palpable as he sketched out concepts for their collaborative project on a notepad, his handwriting a chaotic blend of diagrams, notes, and doodles. "What if we create a series of visual stories?" Jack suggested, his eyes alight with inspiration. "We could illustrate key myths alongside real-life examples of how those themes manifest in our society today." Dr. Silthra nodded, her eye stalks vibrating with enthusiasm. "A multimedia approach could be effective. We could combine visual art, audio narratives, and perhaps even interactive elements to engage audiences across different worlds." Lyra flapped her wings in excitement. "And we could include your inventions as examples of human ingenuity. Show how the spirit of Prometheus lives on in your creations." Zorvax leaned forward, his massive frame casting a shadow over the table. "What about incorporating the perspectives of various human cultures? Each region has its own myths and challenges. This could provide a richer understanding of your species." "Great idea," Jack exclaimed. "We could gather stories from different communities, showcasing how they interpret resilience and creativity through their own unique lenses. It would be like a tapestry of human experience." As they brainstormed, the park around them began to quiet down. The fairgoers were slowly dispersing, leaving behind remnants of the vibrant celebration. The group, however, was too engrossed in their discussions to notice the fading crowd. Perhaps we could also highlight the role of community in these myths, Dr. Silthra suggested. Many stories emphasize collective action, which is crucial to understanding how humans navigate challenges together. Jack agreed, recalling the many instances where communities rallied during crises. Exactly. We've seen it during natural disasters where neighbors come together to support each other. Those moments of unity are what make our stories resonate. They remind us that we're stronger together. As the ideas flowed, they crafted a loose outline for their project, each historian contributing their insights. They discussed potential titles, themes, and the kinds of stories they wanted to feature. Jack felt a sense of camaraderie with his newfound friends, realizing that they were all united by a shared goal. Eventually, the conversation shifted to logistics. How do we gather these stories? Lyra asked, her feathers shimmering in the dim light. There are so many human cultures and myths to explore. Jack thought for a moment. I have connections in various communities. I could reach out to local storytellers, historians, and even schools. They'd love to share their tales. Plus, we could use social media to encourage submissions from people around the world. Zorvac scratched his chin, contemplating. And what about the technical aspects? We should consider how to present this information in a way that's accessible to other species. Not all cultures may interpret your stories in the same way. Good point, Dr. Silthra replied. We'll need to ensure that our presentation is clear and inclusive. Perhaps we could create translations or cultural notes to accompany each story, explaining the context and significance. With a plan taking shape, the group felt a renewed sense of purpose. The project was no longer just an idea, it was a mission to bridge gaps between worlds through the shared language of storytelling. As they wrapped up their brainstorming session, Jack glanced at the horizon, where the first hints of dawn began to paint the sky in soft hues of pink and orange. Wow, we've been at this all night. I didn't even realize how late it was. Lyra stretched her wings, yawning. Time flies when you're inspired. We should probably wrap it up for now, Dr. Silthra suggested, though her eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. But let's set a timeline for our next steps. We can reconvene soon to discuss our findings and start compiling stories. Jack nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and responsibility. Absolutely. I'll start reaching out to people right away. This is going to be amazing. As they stood to leave, Zorvax clapped Jack on the back, nearly knocking him over. You have ignited a fire in us, human. We shall see where it leads. Jack laughed, feeling a warmth inside him that had little to do with the metaphorical fire. I'm just glad we're doing this together. It feels like we're creating something that could really make a difference. With plans in place, the historians prepared to depart. They exchanged contact information, promising to stay in touch as they embarked on their individual tasks. Jack watched them leave, a sense of fulfillment washing over him. As he made his way home, the possibilities danced in his mind. He was no longer just an inventor, he was a storyteller, a connector of cultures. And as the sun rose, illuminating the world around him, he felt ready to embrace the challenge ahead. The project promised to be a journey not just of discovery, but also of understanding, weaving together the threads of humanity's myths with the insights of alien historians. Together, they would explore the depths of human experience and, perhaps, redefine what it meant to be resilient in the face of adversity. In the days that followed, Jack reached out to community centers, schools, and local storytellers, gathering tales that spoke to the heart of humanity. He was met with enthusiasm and curiosity, and each story he collected added depth to the tapestry they were creating. Meanwhile, the historians began their own research, diving into human literature and folklore, eager to explore the connections between myth and reality. They communicated regularly, sharing their findings and refining their vision. As the project took shape, Jack found himself reflecting on the very nature of stories. They were not just entertainment, they were the lifeblood of culture, a way to connect with the past and inspire the future. In this endeavor, he was not just sharing his own experiences but inviting the galaxy to understand the essence of humanity. And with each story collected, he felt that they were building something truly extraordinary, a bridge between worlds crafted from the enduring power of myth.